Who is constantly making choices based on a scarce amount of resources? I'm Mr. Beat. The economy, stupid! That's just a saying, I'm not insulting anyone. The economy is almost always the most important issue for voters.
The economy.
The economy.
Yes, I voted on the economy, exactly.
Everyone is talking about the economy.
This is a New York Times poll, brand new here, asking voters what's the top issue on your mind this election. I haven't seen it this dramatic in a poll. Add the economy and inflation together, that is 44%. We're getting close to half of all respondents in this poll.
Just the way everything is between the pricing, the fuel, housing.
In fact, the economy is such an important issue for presidential elections here in the United States that I can literally look at economic data to predict who will be the next president of the United States.
During the Trump administration, solid jobs being added month after month. In fact, the unemployment rate was at 3.5%. That's a half-century low. And then, of course, things drop like a rock. We lose millions of jobs during COVID, and the huge snap back when the economy reopens. Jobs are added at its lowest, the unemployment rate at 3.4%. And during the Biden administration, 15+ million jobs have been added overall to our economy.
The economy is also what many in the media tend to focus on when determining if an American president is good or bad. When things are going well, presidents take credit.
The average unemployment rate under my administration is lower than any administration in the history of our country.
We now have historic low unemployment in America among all groups of people. We now have an economy that is thriving by all macroeconomic measures.
When things aren't going so well, presidents blame their political opponents.
Do you take any blame for inflation, Mr. President?
Am I taking blame for inflation? No, because it was already there when I got here, man. Remember what the economy was like when I got here?
They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country. They've destroyed the economy.
And because the United States has the biggest economy in the world tends to pay close attention to how a new presidential candidate talks about the economy.
Donald Trump fights for billionaires and large corporations. I will fight to give money back to working and middle-class Americans.
CNN, everybody's favorite news company, am I right? Once reported that the stock market does better under Democratic presidents. Indeed, 10 of the last 11 recessions began under Republican presidents, with Ronald Reagan being the only exception.
You're going to have a hard time believing this, but so help me, I triple-checked it. Since the end of the Cold War in 1989, America has created about 51 million new jobs. I swear I checked this 3 times. Even I couldn't believe it. What's the score? Democrats 50, Republicans 1.
That crazy old man, Bill Clinton, was technically correct. Other economists have pointed out that between 1949 and 2012, job growth under Democratic presidents was 2.6% annually, as opposed to just 1.2% annually under Republican presidents. But how much do presidents actually control the economy? Not that much, actually. Not that much. As internet dorks like to point out, correlation doesn't equal causation. It is absolutely ridiculous to blame Donald Trump for the COVID-19 recession. A pandemic obviously caused that recession, not Donald Trump. COVID-19 caused the COVID-19 recession. I mean, it's in the name. Not only that, economic indicators or statistics about how we make choices in an economy are often lagging, meaning they are confirming stuff that has already started. And yet, this myth persists. The myth that the president pulls all the strings on the economy, that the president creates jobs. I'm really sick of that one.
In the second quarter of this year, we created more jobs than any quarter under any of my predecessors in nearly 40 years.
Since Election Day, we've created 3 million new jobs. 3 million.
Yeah, saying the president creates jobs is quite the stretch.
This is just another example of Joe Biden blaming inflation on anyone but himself.
President Biden's inflation is pernicious. It is a cancer on the American dream.
Yeah, saying the president controls inflation is an even bigger stretch. The president of the United States has little control over jobs. The president of the United States has little control over prices. That said, that doesn't mean the president has no control over the economy whatsoever. So how much control does the president have over the economy? Well, in this video, we are going to attempt to answer that question. But first, let's go to the kitchen because I'm getting hungry, dadgummit. Hello Fresh. Hello Fresh. Parmesan chive chicken and potatoes. Hello Fresh. 1-pan turkey stir-fry tacos. Here are the instructions. You'll always find something to love with Hello Fresh. They make it easy for people that typically don't cook like myself. With your preferences, you've got fit and wholesome. We do quick and easy. Let's get started. From hearty dinners to game day snacks, HelloFresh has a variety of recipes and flavors to perfectly accompany sweater weather, or in my case, flannel weather. We're looking at you, pumpkin spice. HelloFresh has tons of options for whatever you're craving. Choose from a changing menu of over 50 recipes each week. Plus, take your pick from over 100 market add-on items like desserts, breakfast, and snacks. Get 10 free meals by going to HelloFresh.com. Use code MrBeat10. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. Applied across 7 boxes. But yeah, 10 free HelloFresh meals by going to HelloFresh.com. Use code MrBeat10. Thanks to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. Why do I take sponsorships for my videos? Well, because these sponsors support me financially. It's almost as if I make choices based on scarcity, huh? It's almost as if we live in a freaking economy. So yeah, anyway, how much do American presidents control the economy? Now, if you were paying attention earlier, you may remember that I said that presidents have little control over the economy. Regardless, let's look at what they do have the power to do to affect it. These are the 4 ways a president can attempt to at least guide the economy. To illustrate each of these 4 ways, we are going to look at an example of a bad economic trend that happened between 2021 to 2023. Historically high inflation. The inflation that we saw during those years was the worst inflation we had seen in this country since the early 1980s. Naturally, Joe Biden got the blame for this inflation.
Biden inflation. Thanksgiving meal set to be the most expensive on record.
People even put up stickers at gas pumps like this. Wait a second. I wonder if those stickers are still up now since gas prices have gone down since then? Yeah, I don't think they thought that one through enough. Anyway, how much was Biden to blame for this higher inflation? Well, let's take a look. First of all, I want you to understand this one basic important fact. The President of the United States does not control the money. You may recall that the US Constitution says that only Congress can, quote, regulate commerce with foreign nations. And yep, Congress controls how the money is spent. Sure, the President sends a budget to Congress every year, but Congress has the ultimate say, man. In fact, if Congress does not approve a budget, then the federal government literally shuts down. Jeez, that's dramatic. Congress, not the president, controls the currency. Sure, the United States Treasury creates the currency, but only after Congress tells it to. Congress also instructs the Treasury, specifically the Internal Revenue Service, or IRS, to collect all federal taxes. Congress is responsible for all federal taxes to begin with. Now, that all said, don't get it completely twisted, sister here. the president does have some legislative powers. They are the chief legislator, after all. First of all, they can either sign spending bills into law or veto them. Now, unless your name is Grover Cleveland, you're probably going to sign spending bills into law as a president. Not only that, in recent decades, Congress has given more and more powers to the president to control tariffs or taxes on imports or exports. So based on what I just said, let's look at the historically high inflation that we saw between 2021 and 2023. In response to the aforementioned COVID-19 recession, Congress passed laws like the CARES Act and the American Rescue Plan to stimulate the economy. These laws included direct payments to individuals, unemployment benefits, and grants to businesses. Many economists also say that inflation is a lagging indicator, which means what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19! COVID-19! Can you stop doing that, man? Anyway, many economists say that one cause of the much too high inflation that we saw between 2021 and 2023 was because of the fiscal policy that actually happened during the, COVID-19 pandemic. COVID-19! Oh. COVID-19! And hey, look at that. Biden did sign the American Rescue Plan, so he is partially to blame for the inflation. Oh, and, well, Trump signed the CARES Act, so I guess he is partially to blame for the inflation as well. Biden also kept some of the tariffs Trump implemented. Some economists argue these tariffs also caused at least some of the inflation. Now, just because Congress controls whether or not the president can spend money doesn't mean they micromanage exactly how the president spends it. Also, if Congress doesn't approve a budget and the federal government does shut down, many Americans don't realize the president can just sign executive orders to move money around.
I'm an executive order and I pretty much just happened. And that's it.
Indeed, in 2020, Trump signed executive orders extending pandemic relief after Congress failed to pass legislation. I found multiple executive orders by Biden that could affect the economy. One encouraged stronger enforcement of antitrust law. Another created a policy plan for the regulation of cryptocurrencies. Yet another implemented labor protections for migrant workers. Another example of an executive order affecting the economy is when the president directs where resources go during national emergencies. Specifically, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act authorizes the president to regulate international commerce after declaring a national emergency. Notably, it allows the president to freeze assets and block transactions. The president has regularly used the law to punish countries. Biden has used it to fight fentanyl being sold online and to fight other governments from stealing data. And yep, Biden has used it to punish Russia for invading Ukraine. One executive order banned importing Russian fossil fuels. Others have banned doing business in Russia. Did these executive orders affect inflation? Well, the ones banning importing oil from Russia and doing business in Russia sure did. That said, the one affecting antitrust law likely will help prices go down. I should also mention there are other more indirect ways the president can influence the economy through how they enforce the law. For example, where they deploy troops can affect the economy. They make decisions about where they stay when they travel. Like which hotels they stay at, for example. That's right, the president can be a bully. Well, bully pulpit, a term dating back to President Theodore Roosevelt, just means using the presidency to speak out and be heard about something. Anything, really, even if it's the
late, great Hannibal Lecter. He'd love to have you for dinner.
Not that many people were talking about Hannibal Lecter, but after Trump mentioned him multiple times, Hannibal Lecter definitely was on the minds of millions of Americans, that's for sure. So what I'm trying to say here is that the president can use their influence to influence the economy. They're an influencer. Being a president is arguably the most powerful job in the world, after all. So if you say something about the economy, probably a lot of people are going to listen and make different choices than they would have made otherwise. Markets respond to what presidents say. For example, if a president publicly praises Costco, it's likely that Costco's stock price would go up for various reasons, particularly because the president praising it might be a signal also to Congress to pass legislation that favors Costco. I wish I had invested in Costco 5 years ago. If anyone has a time machine I can borrow, please comment below.
You ever come across anything like time travel? Easy.
So was there significant evidence that Biden used his influence, his bully pulpit, to drive up inflation? Nah. While Congress has control over fiscal policy, or how the government spends and taxes people, the Federal Reserve has control over monetary policy, or how the money supply is managed. Yep, the Federal Reserve is an organization that effectively has the ability to create money out of thin air. Holy wowza. What the heck is the Federal Reserve, you might be asking right now? Or maybe you're not. I still can't hear you, unfortunately. The Federal Reserve System is pretty much the most influential central bank system in the world. Congress created it mostly to prevent bank panics and make the economy more stable. It has 3 main goals. Number 1, maximizing employment. Number 2, keeping prices stable. And number 3, managing interest rates and influencing lending. Often these 3 are related. In order to keep prices stable, the Fed, as economics news junkies like me like to call it, often has to adjust interest rates. If inflation is sharply increasing, it likely will increase interest rates to lower borrowing and spending. If unemployment is too high, it will likely lower interest rates to encourage borrowing to pay for more workers. Part of the appeal of the Fed is that it's decentralized. It's made up of 12 different banks that control 12 districts. Each reserve bank has a board of 9 directors. So where does the president come in? Well, the president can attempt to influence the Federal Reserve. The key word being there, attempt. The Fed is pretty independent. The president has no control of what they do, nor does it get money from Congress. The terms of the members of the Board of Governors span multiple presidential and congressional terms. Due to that, the Fed is often immune from politics. Still, mostly due to its secretive nature and its vast amount of power, the Fed is controversial. In my opinion, it's one of the most powerful institutions in the world. I totally understand why there are so many conspiracy theories about it. Or, shall I say, conspiracy hypotheses. If the president could control the Fed, they truly would have a lot of power over the economy. However, all they can do is appoint the Federal Reserve Board of Governors and the chairman of the Federal Reserve, the leader of the Federal Reserve. Now, the U.S. Senate has to approve all those nominations, but that's about it. I mean, the president can use their bully pulpit, I suppose, to try to influence the Fed, but let's be honest here. The Fed often doesn't give a crap about what the president says. They really do try to be above DC politics. Donald Trump appointed the current chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, but Biden has kept him around, and originally Barack Obama nominated him to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. Before that, George H.W. Bush had him working in the Department of the Treasury. So was there significant evidence that Biden used the Federal Reserve to try to drive up inflation? Not really. No. I will say, though, that before the Federal Reserve existed, presidents indeed had more influence over the economy, as seen with Andrew Jackson removing the deposits of the country's central bank at the time, which most economists say was a big cause of the Panic of 1837. In reality, most of the inflation we saw between 2021 and 2023 came from a global pandemic that disrupted supply chains, reduced how much could be produced, and led to labor shortages. This, combined with demand that did go up on goods and services after being pent up for a while. Yes, in part because people had more money, since both Congress and the Federal Reserve made it easier to get money. But other factors, like the Russian invasion of Ukraine and price gouging, also played a role in the really high inflation. To recap, the president has very little control over most of what happens in the economy. I mean, just think about it.
Just think about it.
If presidents actually did have control, they would make everything cheap all the time, make it easy to find a nice job all the time, make our incomes all go up, and make it extremely easy to borrow money. Heck, they'd probably just give everybody free money if they could get away with it. Why? Because they want to get reelected. They generally just want to stay in power. Come on. I would argue billionaire investors like Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos have way more control over the economy than the President of the United States. I'm begging you, please don't fall for the myth that the President has a lot of control over the economy.
Hey, Cypher here. There are many more myths surrounding the presidency. Did you know that George Washington wasn't well regarded when he retired? The most important executive powers have not actually changed. Nixon was the last New Dealer president, and the political parties have drastically changed over time. You can learn about those and even more important ones over on my episode about presidential myths. See? It wasn't that hard. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, check out the Cynical Historian's video over on his channel. By golly, it just came out at the same time as this one. How about that? What a coincidence. And while you're over there, subscribe. So what do you think? What did I leave out? Did I miss any important information about how a president can control an economy? Let me know down below. One of my favorite things in life is to be told that I am completely wrong about everything. Seriously, it's fun to be wrong. My ego is too big anyway. Thanks for staying curious.